Hey, thank you so much for watching. Today I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of being a vegan or vegetarian in 2021. All of these are just my own personal opinions based on my own research. I recommend you do your own research before you try any lifestyle or diet. If you have any opposing opinions for me, I would love to hear about them and have a discussion over those in the comments.
How do you know what's good for me? That's my opinion!
I'm not going to tell you what to do because everyone has different needs for their diet and lifestyle, so I'm not here to shame anyone for their diet choices. First and foremost, health. There have been extensive studies done on the relationship between our health and our diet. In 2010, the USDA found that many Americans did not eat a diet that meets the guidelines for the nutrients required to maintain proper mental and physical body function over time. The USDA recommends eating a diet that is at least half fruits and veggies. As long as you are supplementing things like B12 and meeting the nutrition guidelines, there's no harm in these diets. That's why vegetarianism and veganism fall under the umbrella of a healthy diet. You're increasing the amount of fruits and vegetables you're eating while reducing the amount of red meat you're consuming, which can be a carcinogen in large amounts. Research shows that eating a diet with more fruits and vegetables over time can reduce risk of cardiovascular disease later in life. While there are many other ways to eat healthy, I think a vegan or vegetarian diet would be a good way to increase the amount of fruits and vegetables you eat. The meat industry contributes to the amount of methane and carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. The United Nations estimates that farming contributes to 18% of all global greenhouse gas emissions. Even reducing your meat intake for one day a week, doing something like Meatless Mondays, can have an impact in reducing the amount of our ozone depleting. Factory farming is a cruel and disgusting industry. Not only does quote-unquote big food take advantage of being able to produce less than quality products for cheaper meat, the products they are putting out aren't necessarily healthy for humans to eat in large quantities. They perpetuate this cycle of unhealthy, cheap food by cutting corners and using pretty grim methods to increase profits. Not only that, but the methods in which they raise and harvest animals is in no way humane. Humans have been farming domestic animals sustainably and ethically for centuries. Adding factories into that wasn't inherently bad, but it's when the lives and comfort of animals is completely disregarded when I have a problem with it. A lot of these companies will force a large amount of animals to be in a small, dimly lit place in order to be able to increase profits without paying for as much space. Their living conditions are horrible and usually never very clean, and then the factories end their lives in completely non-empathetic ways. That is enough said. I won't really go into more detail on this topic because it is pretty grim. There are a lot of videos and documentaries on this if you would like to see it for yourself, but trigger warning, they're pretty grim and dark and you probably won't want to eat meat after seeing them. For all of these reasons and many more, people have been flocking to a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle over the past few years. Especially with global warming being one of the biggest challenges our generation will face, people were really starting to advocate for a reduction in factory farming. However, as much as I hate to say it, these issues have taken a back burner, at least for me personally. I still think about it all the time, of course, but with this last year, something has obviously eclipsed that. Mental illness is at an all-time high right now due to everything going on, which I personally think contributes to the lack of motivation I've seen in a community that previously was very loud and fierce on this topic. This brings me to my first con. Your mental health can also depend on your diet. If you're not sustaining yourself with enough nutrients every day, your brain won't have what it needs to function properly. When you don't eat enough, you might see a reduction in emotional regulation and overall happiness. Think about how people get angry when they're hungry. Mental health in my mind is just as important as physical health. It's really important, especially with everything going on, that you maintain your mental health in any way possible. If that means eating meat and focusing on your personal happiness over any ethics, please do that. Eating a vegan or vegetarian diet won't necessarily lead to poor health if you eat enough each day, but it can be difficult to get enough as a vegetarian or vegan because your food options are limited a bit, especially if you live somewhere where you don't have as much access to quality produce and an abundance of fruits and vegetables and meat substitutes. I'm not saying that it is necessarily difficult to be a vegetarian, but there are a lot of people who live in places like food deserts where they don't have access to a large amount of produce, or definitely fresh produce, so it can be more difficult for them to meet those nutritional needs as a vegetarian or vegan. While it's very apparent that the meat industry heavily contributes to global warming, an argument can be made that veganism is not going to cancel this out. Fruits and vegetables often need to be transported, sometimes across countries, which can lead to pollution. Imported fruits and vegetables can also be from countries where big food companies will harvest the natural resources from places to the point where the native people can no longer even use them. That is a whole nother iceberg though. I really recommend, if you can or if you have access to it, shop from a local farmer's market or a grocery store that does supply from local farmers. That way you can reduce your carbon footprint and your impact on the people of other countries. I feel like all of these are just opposite perspectives from the pros, but the final con brings us full circle to health. If you were in the vegan community a few years back on YouTube, you'll remember the wave of vegans and the subsequent wave of people not being vegan anymore. A lot of these people stopped because it was detrimental to their health. They described losing hair, getting a bunch of acne, and just generally not feeling good. Anna's analysis does an amazing job of covering this with extensive research and great insights. I highly recommend her video. This drop-off of vegan YouTubers could be because a vegan diet did not suit their personal dietary needs. If you've eaten meat your whole life and you suddenly go vegan, you might not know how to maintain a good diet. Or you're like me and you started out being a junk food vegetarian and not eating good food, but justifying it with, oh, it's vegetarian, it's fine.
This is fine.
Eat the diet that is going to make you feel best mentally and physically. Don't guilt yourself or let anybody else guilt you into eating a diet that is not going to satisfy your nutritional needs. At the very least, make sure you ease yourself into it to make sure you do not crash and that you do the diet properly. Making sure any diet you eat is something you're going to be able to sustain in your lifestyle. So yeah, those are just my opinions on the pros and cons of being a vegan or vegetarian in 2021. I'll shift to a more personal experience and my own dietary choices for the new year. I've been a vegetarian since I was 13, so about 8 years, before recently. I was pretty strict about it, especially at first, because I have always wanted to be an advocate for animal rights, and then about 4 years in I started to learn about climate change and its relationship with the food industry, which motivated me even more to continue being a vegetarian. However, in high school I was terrible at feeding myself and would only eat ramen and didn't know how to have a proper vegetarian diet. I was super depressed, and I'm guessing my diet contributed to that. I got a lot better about it after high school, but in the last year my mental health has taken a nosedive and I find it difficult to be motivated to eat at all, much less be vegetarian. I started eating meat around once or twice a week because it not only was filling and made me feel satisfied, but it was more convenient for me, which made it more likely that I would actually eat at all. I do feel a lot of guilt for not being a straight up vegetarian anymore, but my mental and physical health are first and foremost to me, and I can't be an advocate for anything if I'm not 100% and if I'm not sustaining myself, so I need to be eating. If you watched this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you checking out my content. If you have any thoughts on my pros and cons list, feel free to let me know in the comments. I would love to have a discussion about this and your guys' thoughts on veganism and vegetarians' role in the coming year. Like and subscribe maybe if you want to see more from me. Have a good rest of your day.